Hello and happy Tuesday, and I'm sorry that I'm late. I have a really good reason though. I'm on a coach call this morning and I'm watching my puppy and she's biting at her nails and she's biting at her nails, and in between client calls and coming on live with you, I'm like, why do puppies bite their nails incessantly? Like they go on and on and on. She's like, "Rrr." And then I realized that maybe she has a little yeast, and then the apple cider vinegar comes out and the hydrogen peroxide comes out. So that's why I'm late, but I'm really excited to share with you guys on how to create the right network for practice growth. And I'm going to start with a story because that's always my favorite way to start. I just want to make sure that I'm live where I want to be. And my dear friend Holly was like, we're waiting on you. So Holly, hopefully the heading on this is still saying how to use a texting program, but I'm telling you right now that's not what we're talking about today. Okay. So let's get into how to create the right network. When I was new in practice, I used to go, this was years ago, I used to go and stand in front of the local Walmart, and on like during the hot summer where people were sticky and sweaty and hot and all the stuff, and I used to stand there for hours because somehow I got the green light to do so. I was fundraising for one of the local charities for it was for Habitat for Humanity. That was my charity fundraiser of choice. And I would say, would you like to get your spine checked today? Hi, would you like a free spinal health check? To every person who walked through the door. And what ended up happening is maybe 1 out of every 30 or 40 people would say, sure, they'd say yes to the offer. And then maybe 1 out of every 20 or 30 of those people would say, I've been looking for a new chiropractor. And then maybe 1 out of every 20 or 30 of them would be an ideal practice member for me. And some of them, honestly, you guys, true story, some of them I'm still serving today, 2 decades later. However, it wasn't the best use of my time. And the reason it wasn't the best use of my time is because I could have taken those 3-4 hours and created really good relationships in the community with that time by just simply taking out to lunch the people who are already serving my perfect practice members. And I want to go through that. So what is a perfect practice member? The way that we discover who our perfect practice member is we can simply look at today's schedule or tomorrow's schedule. I've got a busy schedule today at the office. I can look down the list and I can say, yes, today's going to be a good day because Diane's coming in today. And then I can take Diane from that list and I can say, what do I really love about serving this person? I love serving, I'm thinking about one person in specific, and her name really is Diane. She's cool. She shows up on time. She gets why what I do is the next best thing since sliced bread. She sends people into my practice all the time because she's completely excited about it. I've been taking care of her for decades, and her kids come in still, but they're not kids anymore. They're now grown-ups. She loves me. She loves my family. There's an exchange there. Her system, and if you're a chiropractor, this will make sense to you. Her system is really easy to work with. Like, it's very flexible and it's ready for change. She's ready for recommendations. She's willing to spend the time and energy on getting herself healthier. That's my Diane. She gives me a hug. She calls me Toots. She's just cool. And even when I talk about her, I light up. So what if my practice could be filled with Diane's and her family for years? How does that happen? And in my experience, it happens by surrounding myself, my professional world, with the people who are already serving Diane. So what does Diane do in her free time? She goes to the gym. She goes to her kids' games, like competitive sports. This is when they were in high school. Now they're all graduating college or in grad school. She's probably part of a couple of women's clubs in the area. She definitely has a local holistic OBGYN, a dermatologist, a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, probably even a personal trainer. My Diane is also a yoga teacher, so she's involved with the yoga community. Do you guys see what I just did? I just created a list of 10, 12 different businesses and or people for me to reach out to, instead of going and standing at Walmart on a set Godspeed, if that's your jam, not my jam, right? I'm going to instead look at that list of what I just thought of just by thinking about Diane. And I'm going to start picking up the phone old school. I'm going to call and I'm going to say, hey, it's Jody Dinnerman. I keep hearing about your work. Let's have lunch. Tell me, talk to me about how your practice and my practice can work together to make our community healthier. Because again, I keep hearing your name. And it's really important to me that I'm creating change in the community. Do you get it? Or it would sound something like this. Hey, I'm Dr. Barb. Let's just say my name is Barb in this example. And I have a new practice in town. I'm a physical therapist and I specialize in working with pregnant women. And you know what? Someone came in the other day and they were telling me all about you. You can make this true too. You can go to your Diane and you can say, Diane, who's your physical therapist and what do you love about them? Diane, who's your OBGYN and what do you love about them? Then you call the OBGYN and you say, hey, Carol, I keep hearing really good things about your practice and I just want to take you to lunch and hear about how your talent can serve my current practice members. Right? It'll cost you $20 to take them to lunch. And then they become what we call your PAL, your Practice Alliance lead, which will become a Practice Alliance love. Your PALs, they build your practice with you from the inside out. They build your community with you from the inside out. It's so different, you guys, than standing at Walmart on a Saturday morning and missing the soccer practice and missing the family barbecue and doing all of that stuff for maybe 1 out of 20 of 1 out of 20 of 1 out of 20. And the biggest thing is that we're developing these relationships with the people we're all trying, right? We're all trying to give great care post-pandemic. We're learning the new territory together. Wouldn't it be cool if we were actually doing it together? Wouldn't it be cool if your practice was the fulcrum of that happening in your community? It doesn't take much effort, you guys. It just takes asking Diane the question. You can even make it so that you don't even have to ask Diane the question. You're just simply putting a question on your health history form. Who's your OBGYN? What do you love about their care? Boom, there it is, right? And what you'll start seeing over time, and this is where some of it really is, it takes time. Time will always show patterns, and patterns will always show solutions, right? So it takes time. And if you take the time to double click on the things that keep showing you, the patterns that keep showing up, if you take the time to double click on the patterns that keep showing up in your practice, whether it's with building your practice or it's with creating new systems, let me give you a for example. A pattern that could show up in my practice is that people keep showing up late or they don't show up at all. It doesn't happen in my office, but if it did, that would be a good example. They don't show up, they don't show up, they don't show up. It's happened 3 times this week. This is just an example. And I see a pattern, and the pattern needs either a solution or a shift, or it needs to be blown up. It needs to be studied a little bit more. So when you're patterning your practices, you keep seeing Dr. Jones's name on all of these health history forms. Don't you think it would be important to pick up the phone and call Dr. Jones? And I know a lot of you are thinking, because I've thought it too, I still think it, why would Dr. Jones take my call? Right? If you don't think that Dr. Jones will take your call, talk to Dr. Jones's office manager. Hey, Jennifer, I keep hearing Dr. Jones's name in my office, and I really just want to sit down and have lunch with her or you or both of you and learn about how what you're doing over there at ABC OBGYN clinic, or whatever it's called, how it can serve my practice members, because my people need good care and I really care about them. Can we set something up? Someone once told me to never leave a conversation or a meeting without the next appointment scheduled, if it's an opportunity to expand wellness in your community. I really like that rule of thumb. That's just a by the way. So inside of Staffless Practice Academy, we have an event called Honey to Be Networking. And Honey to Be Networking looks something like this. And we give you all of the things that you need for it to be successful. It looks like you creating a Facebook group in your community for like-minded practitioners who are serving the same client base. If you are a golf pro PT, if that's your jam, you would be setting up a Facebook group in your community for golf pro people who are serving golf pros. It might be the local golf shop that you invite to the group. It might be the massage therapist who works at the country club where they play golf. It might be the manager of the country club that you want to have somehow sponsor something in your Facebook group, right? So you make the Facebook group and then you nurture the Facebook group every week. You drop information, you drop freebies, you drop a PDF. You center yourself as an expert on all things golf in that group. And you feed it and you feed it and you feed it. And we have a course inside of the Academy that's all about creating a Facebook group and making it beautiful and lovely and branded, and then feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And then for Honey to Be Networking, you invite all of these people into your office on a quarterly basis. And with all of these meetings, you guys, it's not so that you can go and have lunch with them and verbally vomit all over them. It's not so that you can tell them all about how awesome you are. It's so that you can go and do what? What do you think? You're going with one goal, and the goal is for you to listen to how that person can serve your perfect practice member. I promise you, human nature, if you become a really good listener, if you ask questions, if you make it all about them, human nature is going to pivot it, and they're naturally going to ask about your practice too. And it might not be in meeting number 1, it might be in meeting number 3. And to be honest with you, if they don't pivot it and ask you about your practice, you got to ask yourself the question, are you sure Barb was right about this physical therapist or this OBGYN? Are you sure this is the person who you want on your list of pals? So Honey to Be Networking, you get all of these people in, you do a couple of icebreakers through the evening. There's some kind of food. It could be a potluck. It could be a donated catering thing. It could be all different things. And we put all these solutions in front of you. The goal is for your practice to be the place where these people are connecting. The people who serve the golfers, the people who serve the pregnant mamas, the people who serve the young families, the older, the elderly, whatever your specialty is. Don't have a specialty? Cool. Start with looking at today's schedule. Look at the one person who you're like, yes, that person's coming in today. And look at the qualities that you love in that person. That's your specialty. Does it make sense? Super cool, right? So in my practice, I love serving 30-something moms with the time, energy, and money to give more and do more for her family. That's my person. So who's going to be on my list? Who's going to be on my lunch list? It's going to be all the people that Diane is frequenting. It's going to be the yoga studio, the health food store owner or manager. It's going to be the manager of Lululemon because that's where she shops. It's going to be the manager of BMW because that's where she gets her cars. That's where I'm going to go to have lunch, because if I say to them, tell me all about how you can serve my practice, they're naturally going to say back to me, tell me a little bit about your practice too. And you guys be ready. Be ready for when they ask you about your practice too. And my rule of thumb is you get in an elevator, you're on the bottom floor. By the time you hit floor 5, I want you to have one thing that you can say to people for them to understand what you do and what makes you unique and how you do it. Cool? So that's how you create the right network for practice growth. You guys, I have spent years going to like all of the meetings, like the clubs and the meetings and the, I don't want to like bastardize any of the networking groups out there because they all have purpose. They're all good. with all my new doctors, I ask them, find a local BNI chapter that's strong and go every week, get involved, right? But the number one thing you can do to grow your practice is to connect with the local people who are already serving your practice members. And I promise you, the patterns will arise in the practice. You got to give it time though. I was once told when I graduated school that it would take 5 years to trust my hands. And when I came out of school, I felt like I knew everything because I was like president of this club and I've studied with this person and I did that seminar and right, like I had all of the credentials and I thought I knew. And then when I was like 2-3 years in practice, I realized like, oh man, I don't really know anything. And then I went back into a stage like year 5, 6, 7, where I was like, okay, I kind of feel like I've got it going on and I'm figuring this thing out. And ever since I was like 15, 16 years in practice, now I'm 23, guys, I don't know a thing. I'm learning from all of you, right? And this is what I see work. I have the honor of seeing it from all different perspectives. I work with practitioners from all over the world doing all different kinds of things. This is the common theme. The common theme is if you have relationships in your community with people who are already serving your people, and you go and you listen to them, and you learn about their talent, and you remain curious about them, things are going to explode in your practice. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope that that was helpful for you. I'm sorry that this says how to use a texting program. I got to figure out what's going on with Restream. That's the program that I'm using to blast this live everywhere. And if you have any questions for me, hit me, okay? Go make the world better with great care, and I'll talk to you next week.